Board of Supervisors to order. May I have the roll call, please?
Supervisor Giomi.
Here.
Supervisor White. Here. Supervisor Horton. Supervisor Schutte.
Here.
Mayor Bagwell.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. This morning, our invocation's going to be done by Pastor Peggy Locke, who is a specialized chaplain, assisting minister at Hillside Foursquare Church.
That's right.
Thank you so much for coming in this morning to help us get the day started right.
Well, happy Groundhog Day.
Yeah, we need results. Yeah.
Today we enjoy the tradition of predicting the end of a very cold winter on whether or not the groundhog will see his shadow. We cannot always trust what the groundhog will do, but we can always trust in God and his faithfulness in every season of our lives. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow of turning. James 1:17. Father, we give you thanks today for our many blessings, our families, our co-workers, and the tasks given to each one, that we will do our job well. Give wisdom and discernment, courage and protection to our mayor, our board of supervisors, our sheriff, and fire departments in the midst of challenge and change. Help us to have faith in you as we look for signs of your presence every day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you again so much. We appreciate that. Mr. Hohen, will you lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Okay. We're now to agenda item 5, which is our opening public comment. I see that, Denny, you have just general comment? Come on up. Good morning.
Today, I'm sorry, I'm still Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. Thank you, Mayor and Supervisors. I actually have a written statement here, if I can stay to it. I have 3 different points. I would like the board to consider the Plain Language Act of October 13, 2010. It is set up the reasons to it's a way to establish a system of transparency and public participation and collaboration. It improves the effectiveness and accountability, transparency and open government. The act is not only to save money, but also to facilitate two-way communications between agencies and public and make it far easier for people to understand what is it they're reading. Number 2, change the master plan. Public buildings, anything over 2 stories, should be required to have an elevator. Even in some places, they require that a building that is to be held or kept by or management programs for a tenant and such require two-story buildings to have an elevator. So that's the extreme one way, and the ask that I'm putting on you is that you consider that two-story buildings are required to have accessibility through some sort of elevator. Number 3, I would like the consent agenda to be worded differently. I would like it to contain a reference to, change it to read, public is offered opportunity to request a change from the consent agenda at the first statement offered for the community comment. You can ask, that should be in the wording. It's not now in the wording, and I would appreciate consideration on that. On a very personal side of things, and it's not on this particular deal, I don't like to read from script, but it does help me stay on order. I was at the case related to the property of Carson Pines, and the findings and all of that have me thinking it's a great opportunity for the Planning Commission to reconsider how they relate to situations such as that. And I think safety issues should come first, and the fact that it took so long for a finding to be made. And when you read the finding, it's sort of heartbreaking considering all the people that have been affected by those issues that were at this. And also, I would just like to say thank you again for all of your being here. And I did have one other thing that I think it's just going to have to come up later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have Joan Buchanan. Did you want to do it on the first up or on the item? Now? Okay, come on up, Joan. Good morning. Oops, is there mic? There you go.
Is it on?
You're good.
Okay. I am Joan Buchanan, a resident of Carson City. In reviewing the agenda of the supervisors, my questions are regarding Agenda Item 23, Public Works. The proposed rate increases, in my reading of this, addresses the required impact statement for businesses, but does not appear to address the impact on residents. Although not required, were the requirements at least addressed for the needs of the citizens of Carson City? And if approved, would Carson City residents be given a discounted rate as requested for the 1 year in proposals regarding agreements from Minden and Gardnerville? And are there other agreements that the city has for the landfill, and will those also be addressed with increases? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I don't have anyone else signed up. Is there any other general public comment? Okay, then we're going to move on to agenda item number 6, which is approval of our minutes of January 5th. Does any member have any changes? If not, I'll accept a motion for approval, please.
I move to approve the Carson City Board of Supervisors meeting minutes from January 5, 2023.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you.
Was the seconder,
Mr. White?
Mr.
We're now going to move on to our consent agenda, and I did not see any member of the public request any pulling on anything in the consent. Does any member request anything? Good. Okay, I'll accept a motion, please. Supervisor Giomi.
I move to approve the consent agenda consisting of items 7A and 8A.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Record reflect it was unanimous. Okay, we're now on to agenda item 10A, which is discussion and possible action regarding the appointment of 2 members to our Historic District Commission, each for a 4-year term that expires in January of 2027. I just want to note for the record that under our policies and procedures for boards and committees, the city manager has waived the requirement that the applicants for the new appointments to the HRC be interviewed in person or electronically by this board. Joan Wright is the only candidate for the position to be filled by a person who owns property and resides in the historic district. So it's, and she meets all the requirements for the position. Unfortunately, she could not attend in person today. Because the city manager has waived the interview requirement, we can consider her application. But again, I'll defer this, to the board as a whole. I just want to note again for the record on this one, it's a very small pool of candidates that can qualify. This is a very restricted area, and we have a very difficult time even getting any candidates. But Supervisor White, you have a question?
Yeah, in regards to Joan Wright, we also received late material from her, further explaining her passion for the position, and that she wouldn't be able to attend today. I'm comfortable moving forward with that appointment.
Okay, again, this is an appointment, so I don't take public comment on appointments. It's the board's pleasure. I'll accept a motion. Is that you, Supervisor White?
I'll do it.
Okay,
I move to reappoint Luann Spulda Drews and appoint Joan Wright, each for a full term that expires in 2027.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. We're now on agenda item 10B, which deals with the appointment for a member for the 911 Surcharge Advisory Committee of the local exchange for a partial term that would expire in December of 2023. Again, this is very specific and very difficult to find a member for elect to actually serve. So again, I will accept a motion. Supervisor Giomi.
I move to appoint Charles Andy Poliso as the representative for a local exchange carrier for a term expiring in December of 2023.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect the motion was unanimous. I'm going to recess as the Board of Supervisors, and I'm going to call the redevelopment to order. May I have a roll call, please? Here.
Vice Chair Giomi.
Here.
Member Horton. Member Shooty.
Here.
Member White.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Do we have any public comment for the Redevelopment Authority? Okay, I don't see any. Everybody's had a chance to review the minutes. Do I have any corrections? If not, I'll accept a motion.
I move to approve the Carson City Board, I move to approve the Redevelopment Authority meeting minutes from January 5th, 2023, with a slight correction to the header, terming it redevelopment as opposed to Board of Supervisors.
Second.
Oh, yeah. Altering. Where do you see that correction? You've given her the correction? I got it. Okay. Oh, mine's right. Okay. All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect the motion was unanimous. Okay, we're now on to agenda item 16A, which is for discussion and possible action regarding the appointment of 3 members to the Redevelopment Citizens Committee, one for the position of a business operator or property owner from Redevelopment Area 2 for a full term that will expire in January of 2026, and 2 for the position of citizen at large, with each to fill a term ending January 25. So I'll make my disclosure for this item. NRS 281A 420 requires me to disclose a conflict and abstain from voting when I have a disqualifying conflict. This agenda is for the possible appointment of members to the Redevelopment Authority Citizens Committee, and I personally know 3 of the candidates, David Lambin, Peggy Green Wilson, and Richard Nagel. Mr. Lambin is a friend, and I once commissioned his wife's artwork for the Nevada Women's Right to Work event as the state regent for the Daughters of the American Revolution. Mrs. Green Wilson is also a friend, and we both serve as officers on the Veterans of Foreign Wars Auxiliary. Mr. Nadel, his wife, and I have all worked on a number of Republican events together in Carson City. I have socialized with each of these applicants, but I do not have any commitments in a private capacity to them. The truth is, I have grown up in Carson City, and as mayor, I know a lot of people in town, and I have the great pleasure of being able to call many of our city residents my friends and acquaintances. I make this disclosure in the interest of full transparency, but because my independent of judgment is not materially affected by my past or present relationships with any of the applicants, I do not have a disqualifying conflict and will be voting on this matter. Supervisor White, your disclosure, please. Are you going to say ditto? Oh, yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose a conflict and abstain from voting when I have a disqualifying conflict. This agenda item is for the possible appointment of members to the Redevelopment Authority Citizens Committee, and one of the applicants is Richard Nagel. Mr. Nagel, his wife, and I have served as board members for the Carson City Republican Party, and we have socialized in the past. However, I do not have any commitments in a private capacity to Mr. Nagel, and my independence of judgment is not materially affected by my present or past relationship with him. I make this disclosure in the interest of full transparency, but because I do not have a disqualifying conflict, I will be voting on this matter.
I don't list that anyone else knows this group. Okay, then we'll proceed. So we have an option on the first one. We can either just redevelopment area 2. Mr. Kennedy, he is a reapplication, so we can just make a motion on this one if we'd like. Supervisor Schutte?
I move to appoint Lee Kennedy to the redevelopment Area 2 position for a full term expiring in January 2026.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second to appoint Lee Kennedy. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Was that the easiest you've ever
That
had
was the
it?
easiest I've ever been through. Thank you very much.
Now get to work. You know,
Yes.
there's
Yes,
there's a
ma'am.
reason we were light on you now.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for
Thank you very
reapplying.
much, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate your
Thank you.
service.
It's good to be back. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on now to the citizen at large portion of this. And so we have first up, are we going to do David Lambert? Oh, yeah, I don't see David. How about we go with Margaret or Peggy Green Wilson? Yeah, that's not David. Did we call David? They just want to send emails. I want them to call them. I'm going to do that. They should call them and say, you're up for today's. They think everybody sits on their email. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Thank you so much for applying for this position. I don't think you've gone through the interview process before?
No.
No. So how this is going to work is each of us will ask you a question. And then at the end of that, you're welcome to stay and listen to the other interviews since you're first. You know, we sequester, so we try not to give advantage to anyone. And then at the end of the final interview, we'll make our decisions. Okay. So the Redevelopment Citizens Committee really has an opportunity to help shape ideas for this board on things that would help improve the redevelopment districts. Do you have anything that you think would better the redevelopment districts?
I actually have observed so many things that have been done. I read through the agendas for the last couple of years and the minutes from the meetings, and it's become much more of a, for the good of all than dealing with individual property owners or developers or that type of thing. And I really think it's going in a wonderful direction. I'm very happy to see all the positive changes down South Carson Street. And I think it's really being led by some of the best people that have ever represented the city in all of their different positions. So I really don't have any
You like the
pet
way it's
peeves.
going?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. I'm going to try a little bit different. I heard something Supervisor Shooty said. She's Ward 4 and always goes last. So surprise, surprise, Supervisor Shooty. We're going to come this direction this time. Huh? She goes, oh darn good. I get my question in first.
Yes.
We have this little, tends to be we ask the same questions. Yeah, I'm surprised, surprise.
Much obliged. Thank you. Okay, so Carson City's redevelopment districts provide opportunities for businesses to take advantage of incentives to encourage positive economic and/or physical impacts. What kinds of projects do you feel could benefit from a financial investment?
I, having volunteered for many years at the Nevada State Museum, the historic district and helping maintain it and helping direct people to the places that are really a part of the cradle of our civilization here in Carson City is very important, but there are definite water issues, road issues, that kind of thing that while they do benefit all the tourists and the people who live in the area, I think they could, they've been ignored for a long time. And I know it's a fine line between preserving the history and all of the buildings that were built in the 1800s, but it's important to bring the underpinnings up to where they should be so that it's safe to visit there and doesn't become a blight because of, you know, water problems and that kind of thing. So I think preserving that area is really important, and at the same time, expanding it out so that all of the businesses that are in that area can thrive also. And it's a good kind of uniform face to show the public and our own citizens.
Thank you.
Supervisor Horton?
Good morning.
Hi.
Would you support resizing one of the districts to include more of North Carson Street, or do you feel like the districts are fine the way they are?
I think that there is more on the north end of Carson Street that could be expanded. But as far as the historic district and the South Carson area, I think they're in good shape.
Thank you.
Supervisor White?
Section 1.5 and 1.6 of the Redevelopment Authority's Policies and Procedures lays out the powers and duties of the RAC. In your view, what is the most important part of those two sections?
Let me check my notes here. What my understanding is how they cooperate with the planning authority and the board of supervisors in relation to how they work. Is that right or no?
That's your answer. What's the most important part?
I would say then the cooperation and being prepared and having the information from the different agencies that we would need to contribute to the goals of redevelopment in Carson City?
There's no right or wrong answer. Or
Okay.
should I say wrong or right answer? Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Giomi?
Thank you. So funding for redevelopment area 1 ends in about 8 years, and for redevelopment area 2 ends in about 11 years. So we're on the last downhill slide. During these last few years, what do you think is the most important thing for us to accomplish in each of those 2 redevelopment areas?
Again, I believe it's the underground for the electricity, the refurbishment of the sewers and the piping, that type of thing. I know particularly on the west side, there's a lot of flooding. And, you know, this year has been, you know, nothing
Yes.
like I've ever seen. We bought our house in 2000, and it's pretty amazing. But I really believe that both the citizens and the leadership of Carson City has their finger on the pulse. And I really look forward to the changes coming up and believe that they can be accomplished and will be funded correctly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, you can put any final comment about why you want to serve on this committee if you'd like. It's up to you.
I have been retired for the last 10 years, and I did serve on the Board of Equalization for the last 3. So I'm kind of used to looking at the plans and best use and zoning and that type of thing. I do have the time and energy to be well prepared and attend all of the meetings. And I haven't been interviewed for anything for a long time, I'll tell you, particularly nothing unpaid.
Yeah.
But I really am very much interested in the direction Carson City's going in, and feel like the leadership in place now and the committees that serve are going in the right direction. Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, again, you're welcome to stay as we ask the same questions of the next set of candidates.
I
So
think I'll
thank you
do that.
again so much.
All right.
Okay, Ms. Paulson. Good morning, Mr. Nagel. You're yeah, good. You're familiar with this process.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank
so
you,
I'm
Lori.
Go through the explanation side. So I'll start with my question. The RAC really helps shape policy for improvements in our downtown arenas, and helps give comments to this Board of Supervisors and things. What do you think should happen in redevelopment?
Again, what I think what we need to do is work towards more of the infrastructure things that were outlined, like in the sewer and such. From my understanding, we still have some wooden sewers and such. So we need to maintain our infrastructure and keep that going. But I think we're missing a lot of tourist dollars that we could bring into Carson City. Whereas that if we had more facades, I look at Truckee and on the weekends, and they are packed with tourists. Okay, and the main difference is they have an 1860s more facade than we do. Okay, so if we could focus on that and make it look like more of a McFarden Plaza type area going on in that way, and move towards that and get that going. Because again, we do have facade grants in that, and I think that those should be utilized, and that would help inspire people to come. Also, the events, the Mark Twain thing, that's coming up is something that's really, I think, one of the better things that we could do to bring people into Carson and make people aware of it and capture those tourist dollars. The other thing is we could even build upon that and create something like a Kit Carson Days and do that and have a Wild West theme there. But those things, along with the bicycle races that we do, the car shows and such, those things make people aware of Carson. And also, one of the things that's swept under the rug is our train history. And we need to build on that as well. The other thing is, we had the people from the Chinese opera, you know, I was talking to them, and they weren't happy with where they were at. And I said, come down to Carson. We'll get a meeting with you with the park people. And we went over to the theater over there, and they came and they measured it because they were seriously thinking about coming here. Only problem was is the ceiling was 3 foot short high of what they wanted and about 2 feet short wide. They said we could deal with the width, but if it was just a little bit higher, then we could do the acrobats stuff that we do. So again, you know, I've been trying to promote Carson on my own, along with my wife. So it's a great city, and I think we have a lot of undiscovered gems in here. The other thing is that the Texter Terra, forgive me for mispronouncing that, but he that pavilion there really needs to be expanded if we're going to do, you know, on that, to create a venue for concerts or something that we could actually sell some good tickets for and actually have performers come in that aspect. And that should, to me, that would be a priority, because again, the tourist dollars are to go into every local business, create that profit margin, and bring that red day or that Black Friday closer and closer, where they can start writing in black ink. I think, again, we need to support our local businesses and help them out. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Schutte?
Hello.
Hi there.
And I got a kick out of that you'd lived in Sweden.
Yeah, I owned a restaurant in Sweden for
A
3
tiny,
years.
tiny, tiny little town, huh?
It's a tiny town called Långvinsbruk.
Yep. Yeah.
It was a Swedish steel mill that they used to make the steel, the foundry. Then they'd ship it down to a town called Söderhamn, and they make the cannons for the Napoleonic Wars.
It's I've lived in Sweden. It's quite the underbar
It's
place. Yes.
Victor Vacca.
Anyway, fun aside. Okay, Carson City's redevelopment districts provide opportunities for businesses to take advantage of incentives to encourage positive economic and/or physical impacts. What kinds of projects, and you've spoken a little bit to that, but do you feel could benefit from a financial investment?
Again, I think that we have some good businesses here. The concept of McFarden Plaza needs to be expanded, where we have more of a 1860s kind of decorum coming on, and that would increase people. And also, it wouldn't be a hodgepodge of this era and that era coming on. It'd be more uniform. The businesses themselves, again, I think they benefit from the events that we've had, and we need to encourage that. And also, we need participation from them, like in a town hall type meeting, and find out exactly, you know, did you make X amount of dollars extra over a normal business week when you had the car show or this or that, and how we can really help them create their financial success or be a partner in that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Horton?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you support resizing one of the districts to include more of North Carson Street, or do you feel the districts are fine the way they are?
Can you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry.
Would you support resizing one of the districts to include more of North Carson Street, or do you feel like the districts are fine the way they are?
I would increase the north part of Carson Street, yes, definitely. There's a lot of I like to say, you know, where that old restaurant was, it's no longer in existence, that was torn down. That is not on the redevelopment map, I think, and places like that should be redeveloped. And, you know, it's nice that you have some open space and such. But I think that when you see an open space with a brick fence that was there and nothing behind it, it makes you wonder. Then that's what you first see when you come into Carson. So you should see something nice when you come in the door. Again, you know, when you set your house up and you decorate your home, people open the door, you want them to see something nice right off the bat so they have a good impression. And I think that's the way Carson should be.
Thank you.
Supervisor White?
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Section 1.5 and 1.6 of the Redevelopment Authority's policies and procedures lays out the powers and duties of the RAC. In your view, what is the most important part of those two sections?
I do believe that 1.5 and 6, I'm not, you know, again, I've read them, and I can't really quote them off the top of my head, but the you know, the business development, and again, the Citizens Committee for each are exactly things that we need to do, and we need to celebrate what we're doing. And I don't, again, there's a lot of stars here, okay? And we have a lot of people doing a lot of good work, but we're not celebrating that work, and we're not letting people know what we're doing, okay? And the Citizens Committee, something like that, which being part of, I would definitely like to celebrate our successes so that people would know what we're doing and how they can be involved. Again, because I think we're a very good community and we have a lot of people who want to participate. And I think that we should encourage more participation.
Thank you. Supervisor Giomi?
Thank you, Richard, for applying.
Thank you, sir.
The redevelopment funding for Area 1 ends in 8 years, and for Area 2, it ends in 11 years, so we're kind of on the downhill side of the funding. Over those last few years, what do you think is the most important thing for us to accomplish in each of the redevelopment areas?
Again, I think that we need to find some way to market our businesses. And again, there's facade improvements that come up like that. And we also need to talk more with the business owners and find out more exactly what they need to help them create that traffic and to get that going. I see that mall where Flavors of India is, okay, and it looks pretty tired. And again, it would be, I think it would benefit from a facade improvement of that area or a grant. The other things that there's a lot of things that we could do as far as that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. And Richard, you're welcome if there's anything else you just want to add to the record of why you want the job, or the non-paying one, as we heard a little earlier, but why you're up for the game.
Thank you, Lori. I just, again, I have to say that I really love Carson City. You know, I come to the meetings not to be an antagonistic, but because I care. And this is a focus of something that I really think that would help Carson City, the redevelopment area, is something that I could really get involved and active in. Because we have so much beauty here. We have so many good people here. You know, if we pay attention to it and get people involved, we can do great things here. And I just would appreciate the opportunity to serve, and thank you all for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and again, you're welcome to stay while we have one or two more to interview. Mhm. Morning. Good morning. You're Ashley Eckerman. You haven't been through the process before, or not?
No.
For an interview? Okay, I didn't think so. What's going to happen is we're each going to ask you a question. And then when that completes, I think, Mr. Lamlin's still not here? Okay. Then we will bring the decision back up here to the board to select the two that will be appointed. So in advance, I'll just start off with a thank you for applying. We really appreciate it. It's important to have community input when we're making decisions. So I'll start the question with the members of the RAC really help shape the policy of what we're going to do in the downtown corridors where the redevelopment district is. What is something you think should occur in the redevelopment areas?
Specifically in the downtown area?
Whichever, either District 1 or District 2, your choice.
Okay. I think you guys have done a great job with downtown. I love the new splash pad addition. I just love the image of children playing in the splash pad with the ice cream parlor across the road. I think where we could grow is on the north side of town. We've had maybe 1 or 2 pop-up shops there in the last several years, and I think we could really benefit from expanding on the north side regardless of the new apartments going up, some small businesses.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Schutte?
Hello, and thank you for applying.
Thank you.
Carson City's redevelopment districts provide opportunities for businesses to take advantage of incentives to encourage positive economic and/or physical impacts. What kinds of projects do you feel could benefit from a financial investment?
From a financial investment, I think in the next 10 years we're going to have a lot larger of a population here, and I think a grant maybe to start another high school would be extremely important to the growth of this city.
Supervisor Horton?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you support resizing one of the districts to include more of North Carson Street, or do you feel like the districts are fine the way they are?
I would definitely include more of North Carson Street. We have a lot of room to grow there, as I said before. We have a lot of unhoused population congregating there, and I would love to see more development over there and maybe even expand the Nevada Day Parade out that way. We would need businesses to support that, obviously, but we were pretty cramped this year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Way?
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Section 1.5 and 1.6 of the Redevelopment Authority's Policies and Procedures lays out the powers and duties of the RAC. In your view, what is the most important part of those two sections?
I think the most important part would be I'm a local. I was born and raised here, and I really love the history of this town. So I would love to see the history of the town be protected while still growing and improving and allowing for more of a population, but still have that sweet small town charm.
Thank you.
Supervisor Giomi?
So funding for the redevelopment area 1 ends in about 8 years, and for redevelopment area 2, it ends in about 11 years. So we're on the backside of the funding for the redevelopment districts.
Mm-hmm.
During these last few years, what do you think is the most important thing for us to accomplish in each of the 2 redevelopment areas?
In Area 1, I'd love to see more growth as far as the businesses go and allowing maybe some sort of business to go into the Ormsby House. I believe that's Area 1, and then Area 2 would be the north end of town, which, like I said, we need some small businesses over there. Maybe we could even fit another high school on the north end or the south end.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, and you have an opportunity just to let us know why you're interested in serving on this board.
Okay. I was born and raised in Carson City. I'm a fourth generation Carsonite. I really love this town. Growing up, a lot of my classmates would say, I can't wait to leave this town, grow up, and move somewhere bigger, but I never shared that sentiment. I always wanted to be here, live here, grow a family here, grow old here, and I just really want to be part of the community that raised me and help as much as I can.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we get the difficult part of making our decision. We had 3 fine candidates, and unfortunately, only 2 can move forward. So does anyone want to take a stab first? Oh, Lisa, I let you have the pleasure of first. See.
So there's a one.
You're like, wait a minute, I'm never going first again.
There's a wonderful Swedish word. It's fy fan. Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, this one is really, really tough, and I'll tell you why. So, Margaret, I love how right out of when you first started speaking, you spoke of cooperation. And I so appreciate the idea of cooperation, collaboration, and talking about making decisions for the good of the community. So I love that. Richard, speaking about really implementing and embracing our tourists in terms of making Carson City or celebrating what we have to encourage tourists and tourism and being mindful of that. So that's wonderful. And then Ashley, oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you for caring so deeply and talking about the splash pad and images of kiddos playing with scoops right there and seeing that vision. And this really is a community. So I don't know, really. This is really tough. I am super comfortable with any 2 of the 3 candidates, and this isn't helpful to the conversation, but I am really comfortable truly with any 2 of the 3 candidates for the reasons I said. I'm loving the youth aspect. I'm loving that perspective and that vision and that desire to get involved. I also, I love looking at the idea of really refurbishing the infrastructure, which is so important, and that is such a balance in terms of the redevelopment districts, and in addition to opportunities, you also have to have the infrastructure to be able to support those. I am super comfortable with any 2, and that's a cop-out, but I really don't not want
She's
it to be.
passing. Did you guys get that impression that she's passing?
I really am. I really am. This is really tough, and so wow, what a nice problem, but a problem all the same. So I'm going to pass.
Yeah. Okay, does anybody want to jump in with a support for even a single candidate? If we can't, you want to give it a shot? Supervisor White?
I think I'm still in that same position as I've been in the last several appointments that we've made, looking for that good experience and then entrance of new blood. With Margaret, I saw there in the application that really diverse things that she's involved with. Tells me she's got an idea of what's going on in town. And with being a past member, I think you bring back some of that institutional knowledge that's important. So she rises to the top for me. And then with Ashley, what I saw there, again, bringing in that new blood, she really demonstrated a good knowledge of what the redevelopment authorities are supposed to be doing. She did that through off-the-cuff, well-thought-out answers, demonstrating she knows what's going on there, what the responsibilities are again. And then with that real estate background, several of the points that she made, I thought really indicated to me she knows what the issues are within the districts that need to be addressed.
Okay, so we have one for Margaret and one for Ashley on that one. Supervisor Schutte, you want to
And I think
unpass?
well, I know, no, just because right at the end you said, is there one that rose to the top? And Margaret also was my number
Okay,
one
that's a
candidate.
good way to, sometimes we get where we're going. All right, okay.
I'll go.
All right, Stacy.
Yeah, Margaret, you did a wonderful job. I like the experience and loved your answers. And as everyone has said, we have a lot of hard decisions to make up here. And these are among the hardest we make because we're going to disappoint somebody who's put themselves out there to better this community. And you can only hope that whoever's not selected, will keep pushing forward and will sit somewhere else. So my one vote would be for Margaret. I love Richard's international experience. I love his experience in the restaurant business. There's a lot of that in the downtown. I think that's important. On the other side, as what Supervisor White said, Ashley has some realtor experience and being a fourth generation Carsonite, and I'm just so pleased to see younger people put themselves out there to sit on a committee because it can't always be us old people. So my second vote would be for Ashley.
Okay. Curtis?
Well, I think all the candidates did a great job. They're all very qualified and bring something interesting to the table. I really feel like listening to each of them answer the questions and watching their faces as they did so, you kind of get a feel for their desire to do a great job for the city. And I think all of them gave me that feeling, which was great. I think it's so important for people to volunteer and to step up and do the right thing for their community. So congratulations to all of you for doing that. As far as my picks, I think that I would have to lean toward Mr. Nagel and Margaret.
Thank you. Okay, so we have, so we have one is Margaret. We have consensus there, because I too will put my support there. I guess what I'm looking for on this committee is well-roundedness, because I think that it serves two features in redevelopment. I think the strength of Ms. Wilson's comments of you have to have the underpinning of the infrastructure to even hold the building up, right? So I think I really enjoyed that component, and you need that on the board, right? So I'm looking for balance because you need a little bit of all of it to make it successful. So I don't want to see it 100% infrastructure or 100% special events or 100% facade. It's how do you come together as the team? So I also really enjoyed her comment that you do this together, right? Where is the planning commission? Where is the board of supervisors? Where is the community? How are we as a mission shaping what the city's going to look like? So thank you for that. Then I'm left with the choice between what's the other side of the balance. So do I look to the experiences of both of the other candidates and what they can bring to the board, to the discussion? And so I look at who else is serving, and I guess that's how I'm going to make my decision is I look at who else is on the board and what gap do I need to fill or what would help us. And so we just appointed Mr. Kennedy that has a ton of experience in the restaurant arena, the business arena, putting on events, working to do capital, really the strength of the business side of the community. I was struck by Miss Ackerman's comment about a high school potentially being in a redevelopment, that she's thinking of the entire community, right? And like you said, her vision, I thought she maybe went a little bit outside of what you would put in redevelopment, but the fact that she thought of it as a community and that you have to still program everything and that it all has to fit, that it's really hard because you both bring something very unique. And so I think I'm going to have to support Ashley only because of the rest of the members of that committee, I think can fill the role that Mr. Nagel would fill. And so I'm trying to be greedy on behalf of our residents and get every point of view on that committee. So that leaves Lisa having to, no, we have 3 for Ashley. But Lisa, you still have your second choice. They're both great. There's no doubt about that.
They really are. They really are. And I loved Ashley's ideas. And Mr. Nagel, I love how, really talking about the facade and the maintenance and really celebrating business and market and uniform, all of that. So for the purposes of we have the 3 votes, and so, but for the purposes of just really acknowledging how tough this is, then I would put my second vote to Mr. Nagel, but I am absolutely behind Ashley because you're amazing. So.
Okay. We have sufficient discussion to have a motion. Supervisor Giomi.
I move to appoint Margaret Green Wilson and Ashley Ackerman to the citizen at large positions, each to fill partial terms expiring in January of 2025.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. And again, I can't thank, it's very exciting to get good candidates for these positions. You can see on our last one, not so easy on a couple other ones. They don't come out of the woodworks to serve on some of our committees. So really, thank you. Thank you. Well done by all of you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 17A, which is a resolution to augment the Carson City Redevelopment Authority fiscal year budget in the amount of $2,079,613. Does any member have a question on a particular line item or anything that, this one's pretty small.
Can I just thank thank you once again. We have our yearly phone call, and so I appreciate the patience and
Absolutely.
yes, the back
That's
and
what
forth.
I'm here
so
for. No problem.
thanks for your time.
Absolutely.
And let me just ask, is there anyone from the public that has any questions on the redevelopment augmentation? Just to make sure. I'm going to save you some energy on this one. You have to work
All
harder
right.
on the next
I do
one.
want to say there is one vacancy on the audit committee still, if anybody's interested.
Oh, see, she's working the room already for she's working the room. Okay, I'll accept a motion for this one, 17A. Wants to do it? Supervisor Giomi?
I move to adopt resolution number 2023-RA-R-1.
Because we don't have the number.
Second. It's on here. Okay, I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect that was unanimous, and it was Resolution 2023 RA-R-1. In case anyone's keeping track on that. Okay, we're now going to move on to our final public comment for the Redevelopment Authority. Does anybody have any public comment for redevelopment? For redevelopment.
For what you're just been discussing.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Denny French, Carson City, Nevada Mayor and Board. I just want to thank everybody that came, that put themselves out. I tried to read everybody's applications and comments, and I fell a little short on getting that completed, but I think everybody did good applications, and I appreciate that. On my considerations on redevelopment, and I don't want to look at the person related, but I think that the prison is an undervalued part of this community as far as historical. I mean, it goes back from its conception to the role of history from court cases and such. When I go to the Capitol and I get a chance to go upstairs and look at the law and how progressive Carson City specifically was in creating standards of things from the Board of Education to hanging a person or not hanging them. And then all the development of our community, maybe not the brightest or the cheeriest side of it, has been part of the community's history, and it's just under-recognized, and I would like that to be considered in the redevelopment. And the funding has to be considered for situations like that, and I love the idea of including a high school. So I'm hoping that you will consider that as well, because that's a historical value too. Our schools have moved from the museum area to a hospital area downtown on Carson, and the history of the college starting in the location it did and where it's ended up. Those type of things need to really be uplifted in this community and recognized as part of the history that's amazing. While we're losing ground all over the place and open spaces coming to development faster than I'd like to be able to advise all the critters that are having to move and relocate. If I could help with that, I'd love to. Unfortunately, insects go by instincts, and they have a thought and a process of learning, and their homes are their homes generational. And with reconstruction and such, they're not getting the homes, and they're not getting the appreciation through the historical aspect of this community that they should. The insects, the plants, they're part of us, and they need to be part of the redevelopment consideration. So I appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other public comment for redevelopment? Okay, seeing none, then we're gonna adjourn as the redevelopment, and we will reconvene as the Board of Supervisors. We're now on agenda item 21A, which is discussion and possible action regarding a resolution to augment our 2023 budget in the amount of $130,804,211. Okay, Ms. Benaboo.
Good morning. So yes, that sounds like an extraordinary amount of money.
Yeah.
However, it is every single one of our funds, and 80% of it is just capital unspent from the prior year moving forward to future years. Unfortunately, fortunately, our end of the year is June 30th. So right in the middle of a lot of projects being done in summer, we have to move that money forward. So I'm going to go through each fund briefly, spending the most time on the general fund, just because that's our operating fund. I would like to, oh, sorry. It was up there. Okay, so there's the general fund. It is only 7 million of that 7,360,000 of that $130 million number. So it is one of the smaller augmentations, but it is very important. So we ended fiscal year 22 with $20.4 million, and we started our beginning budget with 13 million. So that's where the $7.3 million comes from that we're augmenting. Of that, there is 1.9, almost $2 million of restricted money that's externally restricted by NRS or donor restricted funds that would just have to be spent for a specific purpose. For all of our departments, parks, courts, sheriff's has some programs, fire. So that's a large portion of it. We did have 50,000 that was approved for IFC for the excess snow removal. And then the landfill earned more than budgeted by 904,000. So we're going to put that into, I'm asking to put that into Fund 210 as we agreed in the past. I'm also asking for $610,000 in augmentations to power, phone, vehicle fuel, and heat costs. Unfortunately, these costs the last couple years are just going through the roof. And this is just to bring them to last year's cost. Fuel I did see going down a little bit, so hopefully, but with the war in Russia, we just don't know if that's going to remain down. And then I did request that 1.6, almost $700,000 go to the extraordinary maintenance fund. So right now we have about $8.3 or $8.6 million saved for our space needs. And I watched that presentation we did on the courthouse. We have to do that. As soon as we hit 60,000 in population, we have to have another courtroom. So we're going to need that space. And it was either 6 million or 10 million. So that does get us to the $10 million number if that's the direction the board wants to go. I am also asking for 1.5 to remain in contingency. That's the $300,000 for the Brown Street property. And it's also some savings. We do have 3 bargaining units negotiating this spring. So I just want to have some savings in there because I don't know what the outcome of those is going to be.
I think, too, for the public, and we are increasing the ending fund balance by.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I think it's just important to recognize that this board has set a policy for our ending fund balance. Our overarching goal is to get to that 2-month savings account of 16%. So every year we try to inch it up a little. So I'm super pleased to see us.
Yeah, we budgeted at 10.3 and this
yeah.
only brings it to 10.6, but it'll be really easy to make that 14
Yep.
or that 11% mark when we do the 2024 budget. So
Super excited that
that's the goal
we're
there.
still maintaining our financial goals. Barely, but we got it. Thank you.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah.
All right. There were a few transfers. The Public Defenders and Conflict Council increased again since DIDS came into effect. I really don't know when that's going to stop. I mean, it just keeps increasing. So we are keeping a close eye on it. IT increased a little bit for software maintenance due to contract increases. And then the implementation of the firewall, we had some professional services to help get that implemented as well. I think those are all the, for the general fund that I went through. And if there's any questions that I didn't cover, please let me know. Okay. The airport fund is just grants. It's just grants. We're adding the revenue and expense for grants. Oh, what is this computer doing to me? All right, the next big one is capital. It's over $20 million. So I can tell you half of that is the EOC and fire station because we bonded for it last year and we haven't spent any of it. So we're into the design phase. So that bond has to roll forward and be available for when we start construction. There's a landfill site improvements for the gatehouse that just opened. So again, a lot of that's already spent. And then there's some facilities maintenance and deferred catch-up, about $2 million. As far as revenue, that 904 I talked about in the general fund, will add to the landfill capital. And then there's 640,000 we're getting from the senior center. They got a grant, and we're helping them with construction because we've got some ARPA money. And so Public Works is kind of bringing it all together and helping them, but they are in control and making all the decisions.
Can I ask a quick-
Supervisor Giomi?
Yes.
Sherry, on the bonds that we haven't expended, are we able to earn any interest on them? I mean, are you finding a way to earn some, because interest rates are good now
We are.
on savings, so, and did we kind of anticipate that, or is that sort of unanticipated revenue that?
It's
may help.
unanticipated, but with inflation, it's help. It can only
Right,
help.
right.
So
Okay,
yeah,
Good, I'm happy to hear that. Thanks.
absolutely. There were some transfers from break fix that IFC approved. The copier replacement program of 57,000 was not included in our capital plan. That was an error. So we moved that 57,000 into, so we have that money for the copier replacement program. The Fire Station 53 water heater broke. It was only about $8,400, but had to be fixed. And then there was a safety issue at the courthouse for the rapid flashing beacons that we put out there on Roop Street. And I heard they are just overly ecstatic with how that's helped them feel safe when they cross the road. Carson City Transit Fund is just grants rolling forward from the FTA. The next big one I want to talk about was regional transportation, because this one looks a little funny. Initially, we budgeted the RAISE grant in here, and that's, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, a little bit more. I'm almost there. Oh, man. This is really sensitive. I'm sorry. Here, maybe if I use these. Oh, freaking A. Sorry, guys.
We're glad it's you, not us.
I know. It's all sensitive. Okay, there we go. I know, technology makes things so much more complicated. Okay, so the regional transportation, there's a lot of federal grants and state grants rolling forward, 2.3 million. And I have this large negative 9.3 million in there, which looks weird, but all we're doing is moving that to the sales tax infrastructure account, because that's really where the project is going to take place for the Williams Street Corridor project. When we did the South Carson corridor, it was done in RTC, and so when we got the RAISE grant, I budgeted it there last year, and then realized this year it was an error, so we're moving it. It looks weird, but that's all we're doing. And then we've got a little over $5 million rolling forward for unfinished projects as well. And like I said, our year end is kind of in the middle of summer, so some of these are already complete. The Quality of Life Fund. This is so sensitive. Okay. So, this one, there's about $4 million in federal and state grants. They got Buzzy's Ranch water rights, and then the Carson River Trail System. Huge grants. I'm not sure they'll expend them all in 1 year, so you expect to see those rolling forward. And then they do have some unfinished projects, so about 5.7 million, and that. Oh, and then the carryover, and I was like, this is a lot of money, but the carryover of undesignated, we used to have in that land acquisitions account, but it's undesignated of about $404 million for all three different departments within the Quality of Life Fund.
I do want to talk about that one just a little bit because, so I just think at some time, this board's really going to have to look at that particular account, because when you add that into what's there already, it's quite a chunk of money. And so I'm asking staff to kind of look at that over this next year or so and bring us some plans of what we're looking to do, because isn't that like almost 8 million or something that's a lot of money that we have in the land acquisitions. And again, maybe when we're doing the master plan or some of that we're looking at the open space and things, we have an opportunity to really figure out what we're doing, because I don't mind amassing some money to do acquisition, but I want to have a plan to go with that,
Well,
so.
and
yeah.
and it is restricted funds too.
Right.
It's
Right.
not.
Right, it's open
It cannot
space.
be used for just
Right.
anything. We can't move it to roads, for instance.
Nope.
Right.
So I think we should make that clear to people. It's a
Yep.
restricted account, or they are each restricted accounts.
All three of them, yes.
And they're very
Finite.
finite as to what they can be expended on. And that was by vote. So it's not like
Yes.
this board can just decide to make a different
Right.
choice to put that money elsewhere. So I think that's
Exactly.
really important for people to understand.
So, thank you.
All right, and the grant fund also looks ginormous at almost $31 million. But again, we have $19 million in ARPA funding that we're doing a lot of design work right now, and the construction phase will begin in the next 6 months to a year. So that's the largest piece of that. We do have a lot of the health grants rolling forward as well. 911 surcharge just has beginning fund balance of $1.2 million rolling forward. The undesignated is that we're adding to it is about $500,000. And as we move into this Tiburon project, it's going to be very important that undesignated, we build a little bit and get some savings in there.
And just a side comment on that one too, would you look to consider changing the title? Because that's a specific vendor and that's gone away. So just a thought to rename that or to.
Basically CAD system.
Okay.
You're right. Just,
Okay.
I hate to.
Yeah, I can name it whatever you want. That's
Right,
okay.
well, I don't like to
Management
put a
helps me with
vendor.
names
Right,
sometimes, so.
thank you,
Okay.
thank you.
Um,
I thought she was just, I'm like, wow, she's gonna do it on the fly. No.
No,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a note
Anyway,
for myself.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, and then the infrastructure tax fund, there's that $9.3 million in, and then just the roll forward of about $2 million from prior year. There is some money for benches in there and plaques. The rest will likely go to the William Street Corridor project. The extraordinary maintenance fund, here's that 1.6 to 7 million that I want to add from the general fund if approved. And then there's some projects that were approved in the capital plan that are rolling forward in this fund as well, about 1.8 million. We finally got our reimbursements from the interest from the IRS on our bonds. So that fund is not negative anymore, the debt fund, and so that's very, very positive for me. A little bit of a stress, having $100,000 that was 18 months late, but we did finally get it. The ambulance fund, obviously I didn't think was very important. I didn't put it in my notes. We're just rolling forward some equipment from there. The stormwater drainage and the sewer and water, there's just a lot of projects that they're working on that we're rolling forward. So I'm not going to talk too much about them unless you have some questions. I think I saw Darren. He's still back there. Thank you. If you have any questions. And we did add some operating supplies too, as inflation is happening. And unfortunately, we just need to increase some operating costs as well in these funds. In the water fund, obviously, there's that large quill treatment plant that we bonded last year, so we're rolling forward that money. And then the cemetery actually has working capital to roll forward. Again, this is very exciting. We've, worked on that funding so that we actually have savings during the year, and we can do some, irrigation upgrades and things that really need to be done there. So that's very, very positive. And then there's just some small things in fleet that we're rolling forward as well. Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I don't see any questions on this one. Is there any member of the public that has any comment on this? Okay, I'll take a motion. Mr. Horton.
Oh, you're.
Same thing. I move to adopt resolution number 2023-R-2.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sherry.
Thank you
Mrs.
very much.
Vanaboo?
I'm still not done, though. You can. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of the questions before and all the staff and everybody for helping. Those augmentations really are a citywide effort.
Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 21B, which is discussion and possible action to adopt on second reading Bill number 101, a proposed ordinance authorizing the issuance by Carson City of its general obligation infrastructure sales tax bonds in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $5,550,000. Are there any changes from the first reading?
No changes, and I did talk to John yesterday, and he said interest rates are still declining a little bit. So we're looking really good for our sale. I think we're doing it on February 9th, so we're looking really good. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's like,
I know.
hurry,
Keep your
I
fingers
know.
crossed, everybody.
Yeah, because it can change quickly, so it's like, get it done.
We will.
Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, I'll take a motion. Supervisor White?
I move to adopt on second reading Bill number 101, ordinance number 2023-1.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now is it goodbye? Yeah, now she's done. Okay. Okay, we're now going to move on to agenda item 22A. Discussion and possible action regarding a federal grant in the amount of $2,036,493 through November 17th, 2028, with a local match not to exceed $30,000, and this is for our wildfire fuels reduction work. And who's going to start us off, Jason or the fire chief?
I will start.
Okay, go.
Then I'll leave him with the hard stuff.
There you go. Go
Sean
ahead.
Slayman, Fire Chief. Good morning. What we have before you, the next three items are all related to Southern Nevada Public Land Management Act, also known as SNPLMA.
that
And
name.
what it does for us in a community is it allows us to clear hazardous vegetation and treat hazardous vegetation specifically to our Sierra Front western slopes of Carson City. We have a very high wildland fire hazard in our community, and I think everyone is aware of the threat of wildland fires in our areas. This grant funding allows us to hire seasonal firefighters to clear the land. Our dumpster program, which allows our citizens in the wildland urban interface areas to clear their own property of hazardous fuels and vegetation, dump them in a dumpster at no cost to them, and we take care of that through this grant. And then the final one, we'll talk about a position reclassification. So without further ado, I will turn it over to our expert.
Go ahead.
Jason Dana, Battalion Chief for the record. So I believe Chief Slayman pretty much summed it all up. I'm happy to answer any questions in regards
Oh,
to
yeah,
that.
he's going to
but-
take it on home. He did a great job
He did a
there.
great
So
job.
let me ask a question. I'm not sure if you had an opportunity or saw, we received public comment concerning the dumpster portion of this project. And can we utilize existing businesses in town that have the rentals and put together a program to allow them to drop them and pick them up? I guess that's really the discussion point that I took from the public comment. So do you want to?
Sure. So the current program that we have right now is basically a self-service program. We bring the trailers to their house. The dumpsters are dropped off to their house, depending on how much need they have for that. And then the in-kind match portion is from the homeowners themselves doing the actual labor of whatever tree removal, whatever brush is going back in that thing. So the way that the grant is written right now is for the program that we currently have, which is self-service side. We bring the trailers out to them. We haul the stuff back. But as far as that side, that's what our program is.
Can I just add, Mayor, that the email specifically said, don't spend money on buying
Dumpsters.
equipment. And the fact is, the fire department already owns them. So
So there's no purchase.
No.
Again,
It's no equipment purchase. This is for fuel and for, minimal hourly wage for the drivers.
That's absolutely correct.
the 6-year
6 years.
span.
We bought the,
Material.
I got grants 15 years ago, maybe less, to buy the dumpsters and the trailers. So they're already in the
So there's
city
no
fleet.
equipment.
So there's no
Correct.
capital outlay.
Okay. Supervisor White?
Thank you. I thought we were on 22A, which is not the dumpsters, but the other 850 acres of wildland urban interface.
Well, the grant is what gives you the money to
The
pay.
dumpster is the next one.
Oh,
Yeah,
Dumpsters
that'll be,
B.
the dumpsters are actually 22B. 22A is
22B,
the main
okay.
grant.
all right. We'll go with that. Anybody have anything else in the grant itself? Well, we're going to take some money. We're going to try that first. Okay, any public comment on 22A? 22A. Come on up. Sorry, got that wrong.
Denny French, Carson City, Nevada, Mayor and Supervisors, thank you very much. My only concern is because I had spoken to people, including Supervisor Giomi, when there was concern that I had about the sage up after the college and why that was being done and how it was very helpful to have you fill me in on that. Thank you. I'm concerned that homeowners will not recognize necessarily what is a fire hazard and what isn't. Is there any guidance that the fire department or such will be able to relate in that set? Because we do need nature, we do need plants, and don't want to defoliate a yard just because it's convenience of a dumpster. And so some direction in what exactly you're talking about when you're talking about the fuel reduction. I appreciate that for myself if I were a homeowner. Okay, what qualifies here? What can I put in that dumpster and what should I maybe have? And I didn't consider. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll answer that on the next.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Jason Dana, Battalion Chief for the record. So great question on that. So the direction and guidance of what you should be taking and what you should be leaving, and obviously we don't want to clear cut everything. That's not what our intention is to do. The position that we're looking at reclassifying as well as the entire program, the whole idea with that is education and what it is that you need to take. So we do have literature. We're happy to go up and take a walk around your house and say what you should take, what you should leave, what you should be doing in that, because the whole idea is to protect the folks that are at threat for that, and that's what our business is on a day-to-day basis. So absolutely, we're happy to help with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do I have any other public comment on this item? Okay, Supervisor Giomi.
On 22A, I move to accept the grant as presented.
I second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the grant. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Okay, we'll go to 22B, which is discussion and possible action on another federal grant for $147,290 through December 26th. We're going to go with the day after Christmas, 2028, with no local match. And again, this is another SNPLA, homeowners with the trailers to remove their vegetation. So we can just kind of jump right into, again, no equipment purchases. All the dollars in this grant are for fuel and the cost of the drivers to drop the trailer off and pick the trailer up. I mean, that's in essence.
That's correct. I do want to clarify, like the equipment, there's some miscellaneous stuff that we do have a line item for that would be like tarps or tire chains or different things that might be miscellaneous.
Operating supply
Yes,
type.
yes, but no significant dumpster.
Right. Except that 53,627 and 8,000 in my bank account, that adds up to pretty significant.
Yes, sir, and remember that that's over 6 years. That's over 6
Right.
years. Part of that also is we have two different ways of getting the trailers up to the folks. So we have our drivers, regular pickup truck trailer drivers that are taking the trailers. The dumpsters are actually, Public Works brings those up there, and then we have a fee rate that we're utilizing back to them because they are using a roll-off, 20-yard roll-off dumpster that goes to the property and gets picked up and goes back. And that's where some of those costs are coming from.
Okay, thank you. I think Mr. Pattison is here. Did you want to come up with public comment? And does that help clarify that we're not buying the trailers?
Chris Pattison, Carson Demolition. Thank you very much. I sent you guys that email. Wasn't sure if I could make it here. I'm a small business owner of one employee, me. So I made sure to get my info there. Thank you, Supervisor Giomi, for clarifying that was for the fuel. But the offer still stands. I'm sure myself and some of us other small business owners in the community would be more than happy to assist or even donate or volunteer some of our time and some of our equipment if you guys needed it, or to somehow work together with the Carson City as a resident too. So that's all I had. And thank you for reading the email and responding.
Mm-hmm. No, pleasure. Okay. Do I have any other public comment on this item? Okay. Oh, or questions? Supervisor White?
Thank you. Actually, I had several questions. Thinking about the in-kind match there on page 334, you give a formula there of $29.95 an hour, 2,500 hours. That comes up to $74,875. But you have in here that you're going to provide a match of $250,000. So I'm curious, where's the balance from basically $75,000 to $875,000? And then in your answers from the email that I sent you, it talks about in the answer to question 3 that the agency will be providing in-kind contribution, but in the text it talks about the homeowners will provide that. So what's the balance between the agency in-kind, the homeowners, and how do you actually get to the $250,000? That's my first question.
So it's broken down over 6 years as far as that portion goes. So we've come up with a number that we believe for the in-kind match for the homeowners of how many hours it's going to take them to load the trailer up for both the small trailer or for the dumpster. So that number's figured in for that. The admin side is simply the ladies up front at the office that are taking the reservations, that are making appointments, that are continuing talking on that. We're utilizing that. We met our goals with SNPLM on the last round. This is a continuation of a program that's been going on for a while. We met it the last time within 4 years. So the hours have never been an issue up until this point, or
Okay.
they haven't been an issue.
So that formula of $29.95 times 2,500 hours, that should have been times 6 years. Is that
Yes.
correct?
If I'm understanding it correctly.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, thank you. On page 364, at the part of background in the second paragraph, it states that trailers and dumpsters have been delivered throughout the city. But in the rest of the application, 7 times, it's indicated that it's only for the west side. In fact, there's a map that shows Carson Street to be the eastern border. So is it the entire city or just the west side?
So this This actual grant is for the west side. The trailer program is expanded besides just the west side. It does cover the city and the wild and urban interface areas, and that's just a different funding source that we're doing that. This is obviously been a fantastically well-received program. The community members love it. We're so booked up that I wish we had twice as many trailers and had the ability to do more than what we're doing right now.
When I asked you about, what's the equipment you're going to be purchasing, and you said tire chains. Granted, it's just pennies compared to whatever the budgets really are, but do you offer this in the wintertime? Why would you need tire chains?
You'd be amazed where these guys put these trailers. And it's not so much getting them in there as getting them out.
Well, yeah.
And so, yes,
Been
sir. Right now, we're not doing the trailers because of the snow loads and stuff like that. But yeah, I was trying to go through every possible scenario of what we're spending every penny on, honestly. So obviously that's pennies compared to it. But we do have tire chains on those trucks. We have them available, yes.
Just an observation, since I've been involved as a public visiting these meetings and stuff, ever since this grant has been around, I've had some consternation with it because it does essentially cut out the private entrepreneur that offers those services. Just a quick look around town to see what those services are that people bring. Olsesi, M&A Junk Removal, Hoffman Dumpsters, Empire Waste Systems, Carson Demolition, and in fact, Waste Management. For me, this has to be about not interfering with an entrepreneur's ability to make a living. I'm glad to see that you've agreed to some cooperation with Mr. Pattison here. I haven't supported this in the past, but I can support it if I have assurances that you're going to be including whatever private entrepreneur shows up to be involved with this. That's what I need.
Sean Slayman, Fire Chief, for the record. So certainly this does not preclude any private business from contracting with any one of the residences in the community for the trailers. As Chief Dane had mentioned, the dumpsters and the trailers are a very popular item. We book them out. You have to book them out several months in advance for some of these. So there certainly is an opportunity for small and large businesses to come in and provide that service if the community is interested in that. This grant specifically is just for the dumpsters that we cover. I don't believe we take anything away from anybody in the opportunity, and that's my opinion. But the focus is protecting our community and protecting the livelihood of our citizens, and that I don't want to sacrifice from. But certainly there is an opportunity for any business that wants to contract with an individual citizen for this.
Well, and certainly I agree with you. It's an important program, and the popularity of it is reflected in your comment that you book them out several months in advance. But my question is, why would a homeowner go get involved with an entrepreneur when they can do it for free off of this grant? That's what's objectionable to me. If there's a cooperation you guys can make to get these people involved and the entrepreneurs participating in the grant side of this, then I'm for it. Otherwise, I'm not going to support it again.
Understood.
Supervisor Schutte?
Thank you. I think this is an amazing grant for many different reasons. Huge and most important that it really helps to mitigate the fire risk in this community. It helps to reduce the speed of fire spread. It helps to reduce the fuels. In terms of doing it for free, I don't see that at all, because when people have this trailer, it is a lot of work to cut junipers, for example, that are near a house. So it's about creating that fire-safe zone around your house. And where this grant is, where it applies, there are a lot of, it's along the urban interface or, you have a lot of 1 acre lots, 2 acre lots, and those junipers, when they're really small, when they're planted, and then darn it, they tend to grow and get huge and they're full of oil and they spread, fire can spread rapidly. And with the extreme fuel conditions, and especially like even with this very wet winter, that's going to mean that we have a whole lot of fuels that really help fire spread as well. So I think this is just one part of a bigger picture. There are absolutely people who don't want to get out there or are not in the position to get out there and cut and pull and drag and lift, in which case it's wonderful that we have our businesses. But then there are others who have the opportunity to take part in not only helping to clear their property, but reduce the risk for everyone in that neighborhood. And so I am in full support of this and appreciate it. Thanks.
So maybe I just have a question in general on this. You indicate that you have a long waiting list to even get the trailers. When you applied for the SNPLA grant, was it restricted really to the amount? So I guess what I'm wondering is there ever an opportunity to expand it? And that if we had an expansion opportunity here to bring more dollars in to put in more trailers, because we have this waiting list we could show. We have, I don't know, 150 more residents that would like to clear their land, and that we could, at that point, bring in our potential partners in the community for that expansion, because we wouldn't have any more equipment. Because that's, if I'm understanding all of this, you only have, I don't know, 10 trailers, whatever the answer is. And so I wonder if there's opportunities for expansion and we could then write in the dollars for the other businesses in town to use their trailers to expand this. And because I'm with Lisa and with Maurice, I mean, really the objective is to clear the brush. That's all it's about.
100%.
Why can't we just use the grant money to pay the entrepreneurs to bring the trailers, still operate it the same, the landowners fill it, and it's free to the landowners. We just use the entrepreneurs.
It's a cost thing. I can tell you, it's a cost thing.
Yeah.
I can give you the history on why we started this program, and then I'll let Jason answer. But the history on why we started the program, we took community input from what we used to have in our communities as fire safe councils. So we had 3 or 4 fire safe councils around Carson City. This SNPLA grant came up, and we talked about originally purchasing shredders. The chippers. Thank you. So we had a lot of community input, and I researched that pretty extensively. And the reason I was against chippers, number of reasons. One, high maintenance costs, super high maintenance costs on chippers. Number 2, super dangerous and a lot of liability for us loaning out a chipper. So we thought about trailers and dumpsters, and at the time there was one place to get trailers and dumpsters. One, that was Waste Management. And they were exorbitantly expensive, and it was cost prohibitive for people in that region to afford to put a dumpster on their property, even a small dumpster. It was beyond their reach, and so we submitted this grant. It was and has been a model program adapted across the whole state, and so that was the reason behind it. The trailers were purchased and the dumpsters were purchased. They're existing infrastructure. The drivers are getting paid $12 or $13 an hour. We're not paying them anymore. They're basically retired city employees. And at $12 an hour, you're not going to get, Chris may choose to donate. That would be great. Elise may choose to donate. But a dumpster for them, for a citizen, out of this grant is going to cost us pennies on the dollar versus maybe $150 or $300 that the grant would have to pay for. It wouldn't last 6 years. It wouldn't last six
right.
years.
The amount
So
is,
they would have to go back and do a
Right.
bigger, which is to your point,
Right.
Lori, they would have to go back and do a bigger grant. And perhaps that's the next step or the next grant. Or perhaps it's as simple as when people call, you provide a list of names of companies that will deliver dumpsters so that if someone is full or if the list is full and someone says, I want a dumpster, and you say, I'm sorry, it's going to be August 1st, then you can in turn immediately give them a list of vendors in the region who can provide one at cost. And so maybe that's the balance so that you give that to them. And then in the future, you try and do a dual program where we apply for some grant money to do this and some maybe to pay contractors to do the same thing.
yeah, I support that idea. I mean, the sooner, I hate that it takes 6 years. Let me say it that way, right? Because I don't want a fire in 2 years that wipes out a lot of areas. So anything we can do that you guys can find more grants and things to help speed this up or increase dollars and include any of our local businesses that want to provide potentially at cost activities or things, I would support that. Again, this program I think is phenomenal, and I'm certainly not going to turn it down so that I have no fire removal of vegetation, but whatever we can do to expand it and to include our local businesses, I'd appreciate you looking at.
We will look into that. Thank you.
I would just
it's-
cap this conversation off with, if they can't afford a dumpster to clean their property, I would say, don't buy property you can't afford to maintain.
Well, they already own it. They already own it, and they've
I-
owned it for 40 years.
Okay,
They didn't spend $1 million on a house in Lakeview
you can't
40
afford,
or 50 years ago.
if you can't afford to maintain it, I don't know why you own it.
I'd like to make one comment on that, if that's
Certainly.
okay. So the beauty of this program with the trailers that are all stickered up, Carson City Fire Department Fuels Reduction Program, not everybody realizes the significance and the hazards and the threats, even though we've had it over and over on that west side on the Sierra front. They don't really realize it until they see it, or a smoke column coming over the hill. I've been on a lot of fires where people are doing weed whacking right in the middle of a fire, thinking they're going to change something right then. So my point is, with the trailer, we're advertising it. When a neighbor does their yard, the next neighbor next door is like, when can I get that trailer? Let's go do our yard next. And then it just kind of
It
keeps
grows.
it grows. And so that's the beauty. It's just promoting fire safety is really what we're trying to do.
And maybe just off the top of my head, again, you guys have maps that show where all of this WUI area is. And I just invite you to make sure that all of those businesses that have trailers have that material, because I can't imagine a better marketing opportunity for you and those businesses to actually on your own go and market that area and say, let us help you. Maybe you can even hook up with landscapers and some other people, because I also know of several that would love to do the trailer program, but they don't have the ability to do the actual clearing, the physical work. So that's where I see the cooperation and the linkage of our communities is to do that together, right? So if you can provide documents and literature and things, again, maybe it's a great opportunity for the community to come together with the landscapers. I'll get out. The last, I don't know, still driving around town, how many still have limbs that are broken? I have limbs frozen in the ice. I'm like, it's unbelievable.
So
But
Coon-
I think there's people that need help there too, right? Maybe, sounds nuts, but with your dumpster program from the private to go around and put notes on people's doors that I'll come cut your tree limbs and haul them off for you. So some great opportunities to work together as a community to solve any excess wood.
Absolutely. Great ideas. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I
Anybody else?
appreciate, I guess, more or less a tacit agreement that we're going to start considering the entrepreneurs. And so
Yes.
with that, I will give my support to this grant.
Yeah, I think, thank you. Thank you, Supervisor White. I think it's important that, again, it's all of the community trying to fix this problem. So is there any other, no, there wasn't any other public comment before we take a motion? All right. Supervisor Shooty.
I move to accept the grant award as presented.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you all, and even Mr. Pattison, thank you. Work together, that's what's going to solve this one. Okay, we're going to move to agenda item 22C, discussion and possible action regarding a proposed reclassification of the Wildland Fuel Management Officer position from unclassified to the Fuels Management Grants Administrator, moving them into the classified system. Chief Slayman?
Yes, Sean Slayman, Fire Chief for the record. This is a reclassification of a position that was formerly the Wildland Fuels Management Officer to a grant administrator. It is covered under the SNPLMA grant. The funding for it is, and it is solely to manage our fire-related grants. And this would be a person that would actually have those lists that we just talked about with some of our participating businesses, so that when we go out to our residential areas, meet with our homeowners, talk to them about fire safety and fire clearances, that they would actually be able to present some of the landscape opportunities. If you're not able to clear your vegetation alone, these are some opportunities that would present to that. But overall, they are going to manage all of our grants. The BLM grant, the SNPLMA grant through BLM, is very time consuming, and the reporting system on any federal grant is very intensive, as well as they would oversee the Nevada energy portion of that grant also, and seek for other grant opportunities that may down the line work for some of our businesses. So it is to sum it up, it's a reclassification, and it is covered fully under the SNPLMA grant.
Is there any questions? Supervisor White?
Yes, thank you. And I really like that aspect of the education portion with informing people what really makes a healthy ecosystem. And that goes back to what Mr. French was saying earlier. There's a lot of things that goes on that people don't realize, the homes that are there, right?
Correct.
The healthy ecosystem in the brush. Thanks.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Is there any public comment on this item? Don't see any. We'll bring it back up here for a motion. Supervisor Shooty?
I move to reclassify the Wildland Fuel Management Officer position to a Fuels Management Grants Administrator position.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you so much. We learned more about trailers than we ever wanted to know. Thank you again for your hard work to keeping the community safe. Are you guys ready? Do you want just a brief recess in that? Let's do that. We're going to go and recess till 10:30. bring the Board of Supervisors back to order. We're on agenda item 23A, discussion and possible action on our business impact statement concerning a proposed ordinance revising the rates and fees for use of the Carson City sanitary landfill, and to introduce on first reading a proposed ordinance revising the rates and fees for use of the Carson City sanitary landfill. Mr. Schultz, we've discussed this a lot already in the past, but just briefly on the business impact statement.
Yes, good morning. Darren Schultz, Public Works Director for the record. Good to see you again. This is, as you mentioned, a topic we've talked about over the last few months. Officially brought it forward. The business impact statement was sent out to both local here in Carson City as well as surrounding counties because it's going to impact their rates as well. Any feedback that we received was included in the backup information for this item. Pretty straightforward there. Open up to any questions that you might have.
So just in general, we had public comment this morning that briefly discussed the business impact statement, and that was a consideration given the same for the residents. And so just on the record, I think that this board heavily at the last meeting directed that we hold our residents harmless, to the best of our ability, right, at the absolute minimum. So I hope that when people realize what's in this proposal, they see that we did just that the resident impact is minimal in this. So I wanted to answer that. And then also that we sent this to non-Carson City businesses, of which we aren't actually required to do, right? Because it's only for expansion in your own community.
That's correct.
So I wanted to answer that for her too, is that I think we went above and beyond trying to make sure every user would be aware, and then again, that we held it to a minimum for our residents. So I just wanted to address Joan's public comment. Supervisor Giomi?
So a couple of things first. Sorry, a couple of things first. I also think it's important because I got a couple of queries about this. What we're doing here does not affect what waste management will charge our residents in Carson City. And I think it's vitally important that people understand that. We're not doing anything here that will make waste management increase or decrease their rates. It is completely neutral to our citizens in terms of picking up trash at their curbside. And so I think that's critical for us to let everybody know, because I think that's a point of confusion. I have, would you mind opening the next two items? Because I think they're all part and parcel.
Oh, together? I have
Yeah,
no
'cause I would like
problem.
to talk about that.
If everyone's all right, we'll go ahead and open up item 23B and 23C, which is on the requests from Minden and Gardnerville on the implementation of the rate. So all three items are open.
I guess my struggle is that if we're going to have a rate structure, I don't know that I'm comfortable continuing to do contracts. I'll say I'm not comfortable. So I guess I would ask you, what would things look like if we, because a lot of the comments from out-of-county folks were, and this is a balancing act. We all know this. This is a balancing act. We want to extend the life of the landfill, but we also want to generate revenue that we use for capital expenditures. Let's just put that on the table. That's what we do here. And, it's important for that revenue to generate because it allows us to pick away at maintaining the facilities and the structures that our citizens have already paid for. So we're going to have to spend that money to put roofs on buildings and to replace aging vehicles one way or the other. And this is a way for us to get revenue. Some of that revenue comes from residents in county. Some comes from businesses and residents out of county. So that's the big picture. I don't know that it benefits us to set rates and then do private contracts. At the same time, we don't want to drive those money-generating providers to go to Lockwood. That's the only other choice. I mean, I guess I could go to Sacramento, but that would be ridiculous. So really, Lockwood is it. We own a dump and landfill, sorry, and Lockwood owns a landfill. So what if instead of charging 74 for out of county, we bumped it down to 68 and we did no more contracts? What would that do to the financial model on your side?
So a couple of things to answer that. When we looked at these rates and brought this forward, we are doing our best to estimate raising rates and people that will continue to come to our landfill.
And losing business.
And losing business. So that is certainly something that we considered, but it's very much, and I think you know this, it's very much a crystal ball. We can't, without, until you do it, you don't really know. There are a number of the larger haulers that has been mentioned that really do have an impact on our landfill substantially. It's not the mom and pops that come out on Saturday that are going to affect one way or the other. The swings aren't big enough there. What my hesitation, and Rick and I discussed this morning, a hesitation between saying, let's go to this rate and then, you know, no more contracts going forward, whether it be Town of Minden, Gardnerville. The hesitation is that we really don't know what the landfill is going to look like 5 years from now, because we are just starting, or we are wanting to just start on landfill expansion plans. But so much goes into that, and so much of it is out of the city's control as to if it can happen and or how much it will cost, that to talk about Douglas Disposal and South Tahoe Refuge at this point in the game, we literally don't know in 4 years if we want them to come to our landfill or if we can take them to our landfill. So I think that we have to be very careful about decisions made today based off of some of that in the future that we just don't know. We may want to tell all of these people, don't come to us. Our landfill is only for Carson City because our space is just running out. So,
and there's nothing to prevent us in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years from doing that.
That's correct.
There's nothing to prevent us in 2 years from taking that rate from 74 or 68 to 125.
That's right.
And we're not going to exclude anybody, but look, if you want to come on in.
Yes. So to your point of bringing it down to 68, it starts to affect our model of total revenue that we were hoping to bring in so that we could plan for the future. How much exactly, I don't know that. But the other thing that we didn't do, we asked to do, but that was not accepted, was trying to index the rates a little bit. That's no longer there, and I just would anticipate by bringing it down to 68, we're probably going to be here back in front of you sooner rather than later to adjust it. That's not a very good answer, but that's the answer.
No, I mean, I get it. I get it. One of the reasons we talked about doing this when we did was to give those municipalities that come here the ability to budget for it. And, now they're coming to us and saying, well, we can't budget for it. Well, I don't know that I agree with that. I mean, it's early enough in their budget year that I think they can. I just thought if you took it to 68, they're asking for 66. If you took everybody to 68, then don't do any agreements. And I get the South Tahoe Refuge and Douglas Disposal are not these, and that's separate. And in 4 years, 3 years, 3 years, we have more. So, in 3 years, we'll know more. We don't know everything now, and we won't know everything then, but we'll know a lot more. Anyway, I'm not sure there's a decision there in my head yet, but I just wanted to throw that out for discussion.
I think it's an interesting thought. And we certainly spent a lot of energy trying to even determine what the rate should be and what the balls in the air were, right? And so I think overall, I'm gonna
The
say,
really
yeah.
important part is
Yeah.
that we're holding our residents at $10
Yes.
as a minimum fee. I
Yes,
think that's important for everybody to understand.
right.
It does go up if you're dumping a whole ton, but you know, how many
But
people
that's a
dump-
different, yeah.
It is. I mean, how many people are dumping a ton?
Yeah, that's a
So,
different issue.
um,
Right. We,
Sorry, Mary.
that's all right. I'm trying to decide. Part of the issue is we have a lot of contracts for the landfill. And so if I thought your idea, no, we have, well, you have a contract with Waste Management that talks about, well, how are we having no fee increase to Waste Management for the dumping
So,
in a franchise agreement, because it
Yeah.
has a
So-
contract.
yeah, but there is no connection between the franchise agreement and our landfill. The only mention is that the franchisee will dispose of their refuge at our landfill. There's no contractual agreement there at all. In drafting the new ordinance, one of the things the DA's office did to make that clear is inserted a portion at the end that the franchise agreement, you know, those things don't change. Here is the rates for this time period. But yeah, there's no contractual agreement between the two.
But their rate is being held differently than what the town of Minden and the town of Gardnerville. Right, it's in the franchise agreement, okay.
Yeah, we
But
agree.
we have,
agreed
how
here
many
that we would hold
contracts
that.
do we have? That, I guess that's,
We've got
Just one, with Douglas Disposal, South Tahoe Refuge.
and that's the one that gave us the tipper?
Yes.
Okay. And so these two contracts are short-term?
They are,
To-
as they are
to
written,
you'll-
they are, a
So-
one-year contract.
Yeah. So I think because they're only one-year contracts, I'm okay. Because it's a short-term solution, but I agree overall with Supervisor Giomi, we don't want to start making a lot of contracts for different rates and ways around the policy and this and that. So I think because this is so short-term and I'm okay. I'm okay with a short-term contract. That's mine. Supervisor White?
Well, I think we just need to be clear that these proposed contracts for Minden and Gardnerville are not precedent-setting.
Correct.
When I read the responses from the businesses that did respond, frankly, I was not compelled to believe that this would impact them negatively to the point where we shouldn't do it. I've said continuously that we do need to cooperate with our neighbors and be good friends and all of that, and good partners, but we also have to take care of Carson City. I'm good with the way it's structured as it is. But with this being necessarily a policy discussion, I want to go off track a little bit and plant the idea of we need to start thinking about what we will not accept in our dump, in our landfill, and one of those is solar panels, and I want to expand on that when we get to item 24. I don't want to get too far off track, but I just want to plant that idea at this moment. I could go either way on this Minden and Gardnerville contracts being 1 year. Makes it somewhat more palatable. However, while I don't know what their budget is, I don't see that being the kind of dollars that should throw them into a tizzy. I really don't. So I guess I would default to the sensitivity of the rest of the board on those two, kind of like Lisa did in the appointments, you know. I'm going to run around that corner.
Is that a pass, I hear?
Anyway, that's
great.
my thoughts on this idea.
Well, I think the town of Minden and Gardnerville are trying to look out for their residents the
Certainly.
same way we were.
Yeah.
Right? And they're looking at rate hikes that they'll have to pass to their customers. And I can't profess to know their budget or their impact either, but I think they're just trying to step it in a little to their customer. And I'm not so sure which answer is better, rip the Band-Aid off and get it all done now, or strike them with some this July 1 and some the next July 1. I'm with you. I don't know the answer. I just know the request came from a jurisdiction next to us for us to consider it. So I think they're just protecting their residents the same way we are in this action. So I don't see anyone else's hand up for now. Let me see if there's any public comment on this item. Nope. Good morning. You have to, thank you.
Eric Nilsson, I'm the Town of Garnerville manager. I do know the town's budget.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. We're trying to help you or
Yeah.
not. I don't know which.
So I appreciate the consideration. Thank you, Darren, and members of the council for the consideration for the town. We use the Carson City dump almost exclusively. Besides being the manager due to staffing shortages, everything else, I got my commercial driver's license and I use the dump more often than I'd like to admit. It's a great facility. It is the Gardnerville's best option. The only other option is Lockwood. About $20 a ton last time I checked. They don't even have scales. They just do it on cubic yardage. So we dump between 10 and, what's that?
Lockwood?
You said Lockwood was charging $20
Last time I checked, but they don't measure, they don't have a scale, so it's just estimated kind of. It's a great facility. Lockwood is the only other option we have. We're not there yet. We're not ready to do that. I have an 8% increase coming to my solid waste customers July 1st. That raises about $80,000, $90,000 for the town of Gardnerville. This increase would eat up about $80,000 or $90,000, so I would be at zero. I did my business impact statement. We raised rates. I'd hate to say, hey, sorry, I said it was going to be 8%. Now it's going to be 16 or 20. I certainly anticipated a raise for the Carson City landfill. You guys do a great job. You have a wonderful facility. Rates have been too low for too long, but I didn't anticipate a 30% increase in one shot. So what I'm doing is asking for 15% this year, 15% the next year. We'll be there, but it gives me a little bit time to adjust because I've set my rates and done my business impact statements, and it would eat up the whole thing. And with that, I can take any questions or be done with my comment.
Anybody have any questions? I think that answered what we were.
I think that.
Yeah, well, you have the same issue. You have to notify your residents. You have to go through a business impact statement and rate schedules. And sorry, we obviously didn't get there fast enough to tell you how bad it was going to be, but
I
thank
found
you.
out from the Nevada appeal.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. I think Scott's in the room, so thank you. Okay. Is there any other public comment? Come on up.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and fellow supervisors. My name is Tileo Alcessi. I'm the owner and president of Alcessi Waste Services. Regarding the in-county rate increase, I have an issue when I have to pay $30 a ton or $35 a ton or whatever you set the rate at, and then Waste Management is paying $24. That puts me at a competitive disadvantage. I'm just asking for a level playing field on the in-county rates with my general debris so I can compete with Waste Management and the other haulers in the room on a level playing field. Now, out-of-county rates. $74 a ton, I will pass on that rate and I will take the waste either to Lockwood or I will haul it to Fallon. That is way too high. To make a long story short, I feel you need to be somewhere in the $40 range for out-of-county C&D waste. We do not haul any out-of-county MSW into Carson landfill, so I frankly don't care. We use Lockwood landfill, we use the Fallon landfill for our Fallon operations, and then in eastern Nevada for Eureka County, obviously we use the Eureka County landfill. In closing, I understand the need for rate increases. I do support rate increases. However, the $74 a ton for the out-of-county C and D rate is way too high. I'll just take it to Fallon or Lockwood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Isn't in-county $30? No, he said earlier.
Well,
No.
he was concerned, no, our in-county's going to 30, but we froze
Waste management's rates at $24 a ton. That's
So-
my beef there.
That's what he's
Gotcha.
Okay, thank you.
articulating. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep, no problem. Okay, is there, oh, sorry, Mr. Pedersen, go ahead.
Thank you again, Chris Pattison, owner Carson Demolition. Real quick background on my business. I'm actually only been in business for 6 months now. My previous business, I was in violation with some stuff with the franchise agreement, and that business is closed. That business partner is gone. It's dissolved, but I still have the same name. As a small business, very small, I'm working on expanding and growing out of county. Waste management's fees are the same. There's no division of out of county. They have transfer stations all over the place. In Incline, Reno that they occasionally bring here, Lyon County, and they bring all of that waste from out of county in here, but I don't see an increase for their out of county. Their rates are locked at whatever they decide to bring in. So that's kind of,
I don't think they are. In our franchise agreement, do you have more? Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I get where you're going there for competition and again, to
we
make
need to
that
be able to compete with these guys in county and
out of county.
both.
Right.
And while staying in all agreements with the franchise agreement, which I understand, this out-of-county rates are huge, especially for a guy like me that's got one truck and 6 dumpsters and a tractor. I mean, that's a lot. That really cuts into my family budget and not into theirs. I'm just asking that we have a little bit better of a competitive advantage, or at least comparable competitiveness with waste management, just as Mr. Osesi is.
Thanks. Okay.
Thank you.
If I recall, and maybe staff can correct me if I'm wrong, we do designate with waste management when they come in, it is an in-county or an out-of-county. If it's out-of-county, they get to pay the higher rates.
You're
Is that-
correct.
You're right.
And that's the way the
Right.
new ordinance, I'm trying to picture it in my head, but should be written. The only thing we're holding is the in-county rates. If they bring us stuff from out of county, which they don't bring much from out of county, but if they do bring things from out of county, it would be at the new out of county or the full new out of county rates.
Okay, good. I just want to put that right clearly on the record, and that's everyone's understanding, because is it correct? Because we do want to make sure what we just stated is actually what it is.
Yeah, Adam Tully,
Mr.
Deputy
Tully?
District Attorney. So I'm looking now at the exception in the ordinance for waste management right now, but whoever the exclusive franchisee is. And we would have to amend the ordinance to put in the new out-of-county fees.
Tell us where we are, Adam. Where did you put that? Where-
What?
It's subsection 5 of the proposed ordinance. There's a table under there.
What, are we on, what page?
That's right.
418? 418, so the people can follow?
5B.
So yeah, the table below 5B. And it's not a problem to build that in, but we would have to build that in.
Oh, because you don't think this is just a guarantee for the in-county and then they go to the out-of-county on the regular table? So you're thinking, just for clarity, we need to add the other field for out of another column in this built part, is what you're saying, to put the
Sure.
out-of-county answers
Yes.
that match?
I think what I'm saying is if waste management is bringing out-of-county waste and we want to charge it at the higher rates that are being enacted through the ordinance, we should probably include that in this chart here for clarity.
Can't you just refer them back? Can't you just say exclusive franchise agreements only pertain to in-county waste, and out-of-county waste will pay the associated you wouldn't need to change the
Under
table. You
B.
could just,
Probably-
Right.
you could add C.
Sure, yeah, there's probably a
whatever.
few different ways to do it, but.
You could
but we'd
conform the
probably-
change
We'd
for
probably
us.
want to make, I'd probably want to make a couple of small adjustments to make that clear.
Yeah, I think
We
we
could just
definitely need to
allow
do
the
that.
DA's office to conform the change to meet clarification for waste management out of county rates.
Sure.
Okay. Rates, okay, thank you. And thank you for bringing that up. We thought we were already there, but it's never a bad idea to clarify in writing, so everyone is clear, because I do think we want, any out-of-county hauling to be the same for everyone. So thank you for that. Is there no other public comment? We'll bring it back up
Right,
here then.
I think it's just the whole idea of, like what we were talking about with the fuels reduction.
Mhm.
We have to be business friendly
Yes,
to our local businesses.
yes. Yep. Nope, I think we're all in agreement that. So it looks like potentially, we'll take item 23A first on motion. So it looks like we just need to add that the district attorney's office will conform the changes for waste management out of county rates. Unless anybody, okay? I'll accept a motion, or you have a question?
Sorry, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Mr. Cooley, can you just remind us again how you got to, or the 74 per ton? That would be helpful just for everyone's understanding.
Yeah, basically, the last time we did any increases was back in 2011, I believe. And we looked at the increase over time of what the different CPIs were and whatnot, looked at what our operating expenses were versus, what they were, and came up with, it's about a 25% roughly. And when you look at the CPIs, they roughly in that time frame went up anywhere from 2 to 3% over those years. So we kind of landed on, it ended up being 27% when you round things and whatnot, but ended up being roughly 2.5% per year over that time period is what the standard increase in trash was. And also looking at our operations and those around us, that's where we landed on that figure.
Okay, so it wasn't just a 30% just because there
No,
was.
no, I wish it was
All right.
that easy, but I knew you guys would ask, so.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, sorry, just writing a quick note. All right, are we ready for a motion? Supervisor Shooty?
I move, this is 23A.
A.
Okay, I move to approve the business impact statement as presented and introduce on first reading Bill number 103.
With the district attorney's office conforming changes
With
to
the
ensure
district
waste
attorney's
management.
office conforming or adding those changes to discuss the out-of-county waste management costs.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay. We're now on to 23B, which again, we already opened and discussed and took public comment on. Is there anything further? The discussion is, are we in agreement to give them, really, in essence, everybody okay with giving them the 1 year based on testimony? Darn, you have a budget too. How does that happen? Yeah.
I don't know their budget, so if you want
I think we'll be consistent, I think today. Okay, does anyone want to make a motion on this? Supervisor Shooty?
I move to approve the interlocal agreement as presented. Can I say it for both items,
You may. You may do
23B
23A
and
C.
23C?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of item 23B and 23C. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Mhm. You'll get the good news to tell your residents you're doing another rate increase next year. Thank you. Thank you guys for your hard work. Okay, we're now on to our non-action items. City Manager, do you have an updates?
Just a couple of things. Just again, the legislative session starts next Monday, so we'll be busy reviewing, over 1,000 bills in the next few months. And then starting with the next meeting in February, that will kind of kick off our 2024 budget process.
Oh, boy. Okay, thank you. I just want to say, yesterday I had the pleasure of going to Western Nevada College. They have renamed one of their programs to Career Workforce. The W for Western is Workforce, Career and Technical. So I'm super excited about that. They are partnering with Subaru, and Subaru has a college, unbeknownst to me, but anyway, they have thousands of courses that are now available to the Western Nevada College students in partnership with them. They can receive a 2-year certification and get jobs with Subaru to work. Isn't that amazing?
Cool.
So it's super exciting that the college partnered with them and adopted their curriculum to be able to get these certification programs. And then Subaru, Michael Hull was there yesterday, and they actually donated a brand new Subaru to the college to be able to
Brand new?
learn to fix brand new cars so that they could roll the student even off the line right into a job. So super
Wow.
excited. Yeah, it really was an exciting event yesterday to attend, and thought I would just give a shout out to Subaru corporate that really has that university and development. And something unique that I found out was they indicate that Carson City through the valley is their #1 per capita sales of Subaru. I had no idea. Anyway, and that they project out 35 years on their modeling, like 35, we're lucky to get 5. But they say that trend will continue. So I think that's pretty exciting, and that's why they selected Western Nevada College to do the program. So anyway, that's what I want to share. Anybody else have something to share? Well, we had good news. Okay.
Quick, yeah.
Supervisor Gioni.
Just wanted to run down for you that I know it's kind of early, but legislative issues that NACO has proposed. So NACO gets 5 bills, and their 5 bills have numbers already. AB 47, which is regarding OHVs and the ability to limit the prohibition on them operating adjacent to paved highways and throw the control of that back to counties. SB 20 really doesn't apply to us. It's changes how county commissioners can replace their own with vacancies. The law right now does not allow, they allow cities to replace, the governing body can make their own decision on how to replace a vacant person, but a county cannot. The governor has to appoint him, and they want to, NACO wants to change that to, put it back in county control. SB 21 is raising the population limits. There are several laws that have a population cap at 40 some odd thousand. Now that we have counties like Douglas and Clark and Elko that are over 50, they want to bump that number up.
Clark?
So that, excuse me, I didn't mean Clark.
Sorry.
Douglas, Lyon, and Elko.
Elko. Yeah.
Clark has
Sorry.
a few over 50,000, just a few. Anyway, that's it really doesn't apply to us, but well, actually, in some
does it?
no, I think no. The cap is being raised to like 57,
5.
maybe
7.
55. So anyway,
Where we're at.
52.
52.
what-
Okay, from 46 or something, 47. SB 22 is one of the ones that I've pushed for with NACO, and it is to allow public notices to be done electronically, not just in print. It's kind of a big deal in a lot of the rural communities. Austin, for instance, the paper
No
prints
paper.
whenever, or there is no paper. So this would give them the ability to post it on their website and have that count as public noticing. And then finally, SB 41 is related to child welfare and funding from the state to local government. So those are the 5 from NACO that they're supporting.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have anything to share? Supervisor Shute?
And speaking of NACO, next week I will be flying to DC. I was asked to be on a national kind of brainstorm roundtable task force to discuss workforce housing, homelessness, and to look at ways to address issues that really most communities are facing. So I'm eager to share what comes out of that, and just super thrilled to have been asked.
So you'll have solutions when you come back.
You
We'll be all
got it.
ready to go.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
I like it. Okay, I don't see, Supervisor White is almost through. Okay.
My solar panel situation, as most of you know, I tend to find some pretty substantial rabbit holes to go down. But I think this one really is not a rabbit hole. I think we need to start considering that we're not going to accept solar panels in our landfill. There's 2 issues. One is the toxicity that comes with the solar panels as they are built today. We really don't know what the long-term effects of that is going to be, not only on our environment, but our folks that visit the dump and work at the dump. A really good article by cancer biologist David Gwynn. I'd like to just bring your attention to what's in those solar panels. Cadmium telluride, copper indium selenide, cadmium gallium diselenide, copper indium gallium diselenide, hexafluorothane, polyvinyl chloride, silicone, tetrachloride, lead, arsenic, hexavalent chromium, and selenium. Those are all highly carcinogenic substances. That's the environmental side of the deal. The other thing is the sheer volume of solar panels that are going to be coming our way. 1, based on the sheer volume, and 2, a lot of localities are beginning to ban solar panels from their landfills. So they're going to come to us. And just a little information on that. In Nevada, we have 43 registered installers for residential solar panels. To date, we've had 67,500 installations on residences. Every residence gets the average is 18 to 26 panels per home. If you take that average, run it out, that's already 1.5 million panels that are in existence that are going to have to be disposed of. On the commercial side, 50% production of our electricity by 2030 is supposed to be by green sources. We've had 56 solar projects permitted in this state. Some of them are running, some of them are not. One of them, down by Pahrump, is a 14 square mile project. At some point, those solar panels have to be disposed of. I just don't think we want them in our dump for both reasons, the volume and the toxicity. So I think we need to plant that seed and start germinating a policy of what we're going to prohibit at our dump. I mean, we're having discussions about landfill expansion already. Millions of solar panels looking to be disposed of is an issue, in my opinion, especially considering our our landfill sits directly above the river.
Yep, we can look at that. Okay. Nothing else? All right. Then we're going to move to our final public comment of the day. Is that Mr. French? Are you coming up?
Danny French, Carson City, Nevada, Supervisors and Board. Thank you very much. I have 3 basic items that I'd like to bring up in my last statement. I am so opposed to the Silver Oaks Apartments. I really appreciated the new commission members of the planning, and it was great. The vote didn't go in the direction I'd like for the reasons that it went. I feel that it was passed without some considerations that I had and other residents have about traffic and snow removal and parking considerations. And my first thing on everything is safety. If I can't cross the street already in the areas that I do, and that's outside of the perimeter in a sense, it's off College Parkway and up past Save Mart, safely because of the traffic just from the college the last couple years when it was full bore into running. I don't see how this apartment situation will help. As to relate to my 3-story consideration about elevators, I think that wasn't addressed, and I think that's a shame. A lot of places are addressing accessibility for seniors. I've hurt my knee, and I can't imagine even getting up those stairs without having to carry groceries. Safety-wise, first responders and such. The next thing I'd like to bring up is that there's going to be a Land Use Planning Advisory Council meeting on February the 3rd, which is Friday this coming. And I believe that the items in here do relate to what's going on in our community, and I think it would be interesting for myself to get there, so I'm looking forward to that. The next item is State of Nevada's Commission of Peace Officers Standards and Training is going to have a meeting on February 9th. And in there, their first agenda item relates to the discussion regarding the revision of the NAC 289 11 space 4B to make updates on changes as it relates to marijuana offenses. And so there's adjustments that maybe should have been considered before it was allowed into Carson that are now having to be considered. And I think that would be a meeting that would be very helpful to me for a better understanding of just the new considerations for the trainings of officers. And everything to me is very interesting, of course, but I really appreciate your consideration about the environment around a home and the habitat. Thank you very much, Mayor. I'm Supervisor Ryan, excuse me, Freudian strip. The deal is that the toxicity and the longevity, I was looking into getting solar. Those panels don't last as long as you'd think. And in this terrain and this weather, the circumstances are such, even the transport of those things is dangerous trying to get it to sites where you're installing it. So I do appreciate the considerations of that also. And I do appreciate the fact that you're considering the smaller businesses. I was so opposed to becoming a situation of a monopoly waste management. They make major money. They're putting their waste in our fill. And I'm just not seeing the equity there, what they earn and what they pay to dump it. So I'm having trouble with that, and it doesn't relate to a common sense equal service deal for the basic companies here and I can't think of the right word, but thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. French. Okay, there's no other business before us. You guys are packed up and ready. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all for a great meeting as usual.